Welcome back to Chapter Chats. Today we're diving into Chapter 13 of Dr. Chuck Hodell's ISD from the Ground Up, a no-nonsense approach to instructional design. In this chapter, Chuck explores 3 modern trends shaping today's learning landscape: informal learning, microlearning, and competency-based evaluation. So let's just jump right in. Chuck, you talk about the power of informal learning and how it happens all around us. How can instructional designers better recognize and support informal learning opportunities within their organization?
Well, informal learning has been around longer than any kind of learning. And before we formalized things, 300, 400, 500 years ago, that's all there was informal learning, essentially. And I think it's now come back to the reality that most of us, I think, as designers, realize that 99.9% of learning, even with our groups, is informal learning. So yes, we have classroom. Yes, we have online. Yes, we have micro, which we're going to talk about, and other things. But to let informal learning go as a designer and not let it figure into what you're doing in your designs, I think is a real mistake, especially when we get into looking at micro and other things which are quick, 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, and how we can take that and expand it into the informal world. So don't be afraid as a designer, as you read through this chapter, to think about ways in which you can capture the power of informal learning. So lunch and learns and all those kind of things, you could call them informal, you can call them micro, whatever you like. But the point being, it is not traditional learning, and it is not traditional learning design. And that is one thing, Denise, you and I have talked about repeatedly on this channel, is the old days are over. The old sage on the stage and the notion of standing in front of a group and just lecturing, those days are gone if you want effective communication, effective learning. So informal, bring it in. Have discussions, have people talk about things when they are not directly in a course setting. Let them expand on things. Let them talk to people besides people in the classroom or the facilitator. Let them have those experiences. And I think once you grasp this, and I think most designers have, frankly, they get this. It's just not easy all the time to come up with ways to formalize informal learning.
Yeah. Microlearning is everywhere right now. In your view, what are a few key design principles that make microlearning truly effective as opposed to just short?
Yeah, microlearning is so cool. And the notion is what we're doing is we're actually now designing learning the way people learn. What a concept. We learn in chunks. We learn in packets, however you want to phrase it or to think about it. We don't learn in hour-long blocks. We learn in pieces. And microlearning is a recognition among the design community that we can package these things in a much more effective way if we look at the individual pieces that we're working with. So we said before on here that think about it in terms of objectives. Each objective is a micro-learning lesson if you choose to do that. And you can break it up. You can offer it social media. You can do it lots of different ways. But I'm telling you, it's effective and efficient, and people like it because it doesn't waste their time. You don't have all the other stuff that goes with this process. Just give me the information. Give me what you want me to learn. Tell me what's important. Evaluate me on it. Do whatever you need to do. But don't chain me to a desk or a computer for a long period of time. Give me the freedom to learn in a way that best suits my life and my availability of resources, especially time, to be able to do that.
Competency-based learning shifts the focus to what learners can do rather than time spent in a class. What challenges do designers face when creating valid and reliable competency-based evaluations?
Yeah, a lot of this, Denise, is conceptual because organizations are having trouble thinking about this in terms of, well, what does that mean? In terms of what we offer, in terms of what it costs, in terms of what we get in revenue in some cases. Because if you go to a competency-based model and you allow people to essentially test out on competencies they already have, and you're trying to do this for profit or break even, which you'll see in higher education and other ways, then you have to think about how can you package this and how can you think about it that way. But from the design perspective, what you're really trying to do is once you establish the objectives for a course or a program, how many of these can you have people test through? How many of these can people show you that they have these competencies, demonstrate them in whatever way is necessary, and then allow them to go through whatever you're offering at the pace that matches their level of competency? And where you see this a lot and where I've worked with it predominantly is an apprenticeship. I put together an entire apprenticeship, a 5-year apprenticeship based on competency. So competency-based in the sense that they could test out of almost all of the different elements of this apprenticeship. So if you can come into this apprenticeship and show me or show the organization that you can do these things, this level of competency, there is no reason for you to sit through this class. There's no reason for you to have to take this online. Check it off and move on. And what we found is you can take a 5-year apprenticeship, and a lot of people can test through and cut that down a year, 2 years, 3 years. And it's much more efficient. You get people on the job quicker. There's all kind of pluses to this. But what you really need to think about is within your learning project and within the product that you're producing, how many of these things can you have people demonstrate mastery and then let them move on? And to me, this is incredibly exciting. I wish more people were picking it up. As I said earlier, there are organizations that say, well, I have to charge for this. I've charged tuition or I've charged a fee. If they test through a lot of this, how do I base my fee structure? What do I have to look at in terms of this? Do I charge them for the competency tests? The process there, do I bill them for that? Or, and that's the resistance that I have gotten from organizations is I can't make this work financially. So have that on your shoulder. It's going to come up. People are going to talk about it. But on the other hand, this is an incredibly powerful tool for us as designers.
You mentioned that microlearning and informal learning can blend with formal learning experiences. Can you give an example of a project where this blending worked really well in your experience?
Yeah, there's lots of examples. And I think what you have to do is just get out of the old mindset of instructional design from 20 or 30 years ago and think about now we're online, now we're doing things more efficiently. There are lots of ways to enhance that. So within a formal course structure like higher education or a certification program, what you can do is give people a lot of content and lots of different things that they are engaged in within the course structure. It is not tied to how much time they spend on it or where they spend that time. So I build a lot of videos and other things into courses, and those are micro-learning. Those are little pieces that you then build into a larger sum of these that you total out, and this is where you get your competencies. So informal learning, I'm telling you, there's so many different ways you can use this. What do you think a group discussion is? That's a lot of informal learning. That's a lot of discussion. That's lots of other things. So don't just go by my examples because there are thousands of them for all three of these things that we've talked about. Let your imagination go crazy. Make sure you cover the basics. Make sure you have objectives as you evaluate learning and all the things that we think are important as designers. But don't get stuck in this whole framework of it has to be this fixed structure that people are required to spend so much time in. And if they don't, even not spending that much time will in some way be a penalty to them in terms of how they're evaluated. So let it go, free think it, try things that you haven't tried before, just be creative. And what's the worst that can happen?
My last question. For designers looking to start integrating one of these three trends, informal learning, microlearning, or competency-based learning, where would you suggest that they begin and why?
No, that's a great question. And once again, you go back to creativity. Think about how you can break things up. How many objectives you got? Got that many micro-learning modules? Just do one in a course and see how it goes. You can do it on social media. You can do it lots of different ways. But don't be afraid to buck tradition on this. And experiment, get your feet wet, make a couple of mistakes, do it the way I did it, make lots of mistakes. But what you're going to find is once you get the mindset that you can do these things, and once you look at the populations, and the younger your population, the more this is going to work, I think, because they're already used to this. They're used to chunks. They're used to social media. They're used to Instagram and TikTok and X and everything else. And what are those basically? They're chunks. They're little chunks. They're 30-second chunks. They're 1-minute chunks. How long are our shorts on this channel? Most of them are, what, a minute?
Under a minute.
Yeah, you can assign 10 of ours in a structured, within an instructional design course. And there you go, you got your feet wet. Now you can produce them yourself. Now you can think of ways to creatively involve your students and engage them in this process. And maybe you have a class and you can use them to make your short videos that you use in social media. That's another way to engage your audience. So just be creative, do some really cool things, and see what kind of response you get.
Yeah, great advice. Thanks, Chuck, as always, for your insights on this. And thanks, everyone, for tuning into this Chapter Chats. We will see you in the next one.